guys, welcome back to Leadership Detectives. Great to have you back here with some more learning and some insight into how to be a better, more effective, more efficient leader. How do you like the title of our episode today? Meetings, bloody meetings. Most people that we speak to tell us that they attend too many meetings. They spend too much time in meetings. We've got very few people that tell us the contrary. So how do you make sure you only attend those that you really need to? How do you make sure you only call those that you really need to? As the leader, you're organising a lot of these meetings. And how do you only invite to those meetings the people that really need to be there for the time that they need to be there at those meetings? Look, meetings are important for your business. We don't do them just for the sake of them. They have to fit into executing your strategy. They form part of your communication strategy and process. But they mustn't take over and they mustn't do damage. So hopefully then you can see how you can make better use of meetings and maybe get away from saying meetings, bloody meetings. Enjoy.
Hey mate, how are you doing today?
I'm good actually. Yeah, good to see you. Ready for us to spend some more time together. So you've been having a busy time lately on the calendar, mate.
Busy but loving it, and busy because of all these bloody meetings. Which is on episode 35 today. We thought we'd talk about meetings, bloody meetings.
Love meetings. Getting people in the room, drinking coffee, bouncing things around, leaving the room and wondering what the hell happened.
And what's amazing is every meeting is effective to a factor of 60 minutes, whether it's a 1 hour meeting, a 2 hour meeting. Every minute is always, 59 minutes and it couldn't work. 58 minutes and it wouldn't work, but it has to be 60 minutes.
It has to be 60, and it has to start on the hour or the half hour.
And it has to start on the hour as well, exactly, yeah. So that otherwise it wouldn't fit in your calendar space, would it? It would just mess up the calendar if it was more than or less than 60 minutes.
I remember once I scheduled a meeting for something like, I think it was something like 11:47.
Right? Yeah.
And everybody was there on time. And they said, why 11:47? And I said, well, we're starting on time. If it's 11:45, people are kind of 40, but people are kind of 50. So anyway, look, it's an interesting topic. It could be a boring operational topic, or it could be, how can a leader be more effective and how can their team be more effective?
So a meeting kills productivity. Meeting kills the effectiveness of leaders.
Mm-hmm.
With a number of people I coach and people I've worked with and businesses I work in, the biggest complaint I get is I don't have time to do any work because I'm always in meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing one meeting, then the next meeting, and the only time I can actually take any actions from those meetings is in the evening after work or in the morning before work. And so it kills productivity, it kills morale. So basically it's not good for anyone to have ineffective meetings.
But that's an interesting topic you just raised there before we go into the content, right? About people complaining at being at meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So don't you have a decision as to whether you attend a meeting or not? And we need to think about that, guys, because sometimes we end up going to a meeting because we've been asked to, and we think we have to be there. You have to decide if you're going to add value. Because if you're not going to add value, why are you there?
Hang on. If I'm invited to meet, I've got to attend, surely. Otherwise, I've got my ego to look after. I've got to make sure I'm there and I'm seen to be there.
Well, there's a bit of that. There's a bit of FOMO, isn't there? There's a bit of fear of missing out because you don't know what happened in that meeting.
Yeah.
But it's a really serious topic, guys. If it's not benefiting you personally, and if you think you haven't benefited the meeting, who's won? What was the point? But if your boss has asked you to be there, I think that's a conversation with your boss that says, I come to this meeting every week. I don't feel I'm adding any value. So someone's got it wrong. Am I in the wrong meeting or am I not stepping up? Maybe you ain't stepping up.
Or if you're organising meetings and you're inviting people, why are you inviting the people that you're inviting?
Yeah.
It's interesting that fear of missing out, actually, because I was coaching someone recently whose diary was chaotic. And I said, why are you attending these meetings that are not specifically in your area? And actually, I said, what is it it was a great question Jana gave me to ask. It was, what do you value that you would lose if you didn't attend? So what would you value that you would lose? And he said, actually, I attend because I want to be seen to be there, to be interested in it, but actually I don't contribute at all because it's not in my area of the business. And I thought that's really interesting. So it was about fear of not being recognised and noticed. So I think that's an interesting point to start with, right? Is when we talk about bloody meetings, do you actually have to be at the meeting that you want to make more effective and more efficient?
Yeah. And is there a different way for you to have got an update from that meeting? Because one of the things we'll talk about is about documenting meetings and keeping good record, right? Well, maybe you could just read that and maybe that's enough, right? So let's think about that as we go forward here. But it is a difficult topic. Neil and I talked about it beforehand. It's one that we could end up being negative and drain hole gazing and have a whinge about, and it's operational. But no, I think one of the things we need to think about is, why do you have meetings? Maybe we should start there. Why? What is the purpose of a meeting?
Yeah, that's a good question. So why do we have meetings? I guess, so if you think about customer meetings, you have customer meetings because you want to progress a deal, or you want to engage with someone you've not, so you want to sell to someone, or you want to help them with their project or delivery or whatever it might be. So I guess that's one form of meeting. And actually, when you think about those meetings, you've got to make sure you're adding value in those sessions, not just soaking up time.
Yeah.
What other reasons would there be for meetings?
Reaching agreement.
Okay. Yeah.
You need to come together to reach agreement on something. Right. And so you could have emails flying backwards and forwards. You could have but let's sit down together. Let's talk it through and let's reach an agreement. So it could be making a decision, reaching an agreement meeting.
Yeah, it could be developing a new idea. So you get together because you want to share some business ideas, or you want to share best practice so that everybody in the session is learning from that, or they're developing a new strategy for moving forward. That might be another reason.
But here's a key one now, Neil, because if we go back over the years, one of the key reasons for having a meeting would have been information sharing. There are now loads of ways to do that. There's now loads of ways to do that. So do you need to have that meeting to share information, right? So one of the questions Neil's always asked whenever we've talked about, or when we get together, when we sat down in a room, one of the first things Neil says is, what is the outcome we want from this time together? Now, not what is the agenda, not what are the things we're going to talk about, what is the outcome? So I think that's a good point for you to pick up, Neil, because that's something I know that you're always on.
So it comes from a Tony Robbins acronym, actually. And he talks about effective meetings, effectively managing your diary, actually, is outcome, purpose, action. And actually, if you take those three words and when you go into a meeting or before you set it up, the outcome of the meeting is we want to achieve this. Purpose, why is that important? So because you can achieve an outcome, but actually it's not that important to the business, or it's not that important to the individuals in the business. So the purpose, and then the A is what you're there to discuss in the meeting, because the outcome and the purpose you can determine beforehand. What actions do we need to take to achieve that outcome for that reason?
Right.
So that's where it comes from. And it is a great question to keep asking when you're in a discussion, because meetings get heated with discussions, debates, go off on tangents. Come back and go, is this helping us get closer to our outcome?
Yeah, absolutely. Really good point, because how much time gets wasted in meetings because you've unintentionally gone off piste.
Yeah.
And you've gone down rabbit hole. So am I mixing my whatever's there?
Metaphors, yeah.
but think about that, guys, right? If it doesn't feel like it's getting anywhere, keep asking that question. What did we say our outcome was? And is this serving our purpose?
Yeah. And it's interesting, actually, because that then links to something like how long you're going to have a meeting for as well. And that's really important. You said at the beginning, you set a meeting up at 11:47 and everyone turned up. Well, actually, I mean, years ago, we hired a sales guru called Richard Denny, who he was a really interesting guy. I don't know if you remember him, with a ponytail, and he was like this expert sales guru who charged a fortune for his services. But one of the things he taught us from a sales perspective was never set a meeting up on the hour or on the half hour. set it up at 10 past, quarter past, 5 to, because it does two things. Firstly, it gives someone time to prepare from the next meeting. So go to the loo, go and get a coffee. They're not rushing, so they've had some time to relax before the meeting. And they also perks people's interest, like the 11:47. and they did a test on it. More people will accept the meeting if it's at 10 past than they will if it's at the hour.
Yeah.
But then the time you have the meeting is really important as well. So if you have a 60-minute slot, because that's what Outlook or Google Calendar shoves in there, actually that's not ideal either. Whatever time you put in, Parkinson's law will say, whatever time you've got, you'll use it. And that, whether it's 40 minutes, my recommendation would be 45 minutes max, because then that allows you 5 minutes or 10 minutes to wrap up and do the actions from the meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know, what's your best practice been around that?
Look, I don't think there's a problem with having meetings longer than that. But if you've got topics within that meeting, then break up the meeting. There's no reason why you can't you're going to cover this topic for the next 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Then take a break. Right. Stop that topic. Don't let it run into the next 50 minutes, which is for the different topic. Shut it off. It's finished. It's done. Because as you said, Neil, you will keep going on it, and someone will have just one more point to make, and you'll be there forever. Right. You can't do that.
That's an interesting point as well, actually, because one of the things that I get frustrated about in meetings is storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always an anecdote or a story about a particular topic or something, and it ends up taking a long time to do.
Which is funny, because we teach storytelling as well, don't we? So that's quite interesting.
Storytelling in its own right to make a point is fine. But swinging the lantern, I think, is the other way of it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. You know, you swing the lantern. Oh, well, I think that's the expression.
So let's move on. We've got a lot to cover here. Let's move on and let's talk about audience. Let's talk about participants in the meeting. In fact, I've just said it there. Are you in the audience or are you a participant, right? If you're in the audience, why are you in a meeting? So I think a really important thing when you're setting up meetings, guys, as leaders, who do you need in that meeting and why? What purpose will it perform by having that person there? So that's one thing. Secondly, do they have to be there for the whole meeting? It may be they've got a part to play. They might be a subject matter expert. Do they have to sit in the 1.5 hour, 90-minute meeting for the piece that you want to talk to them about for 20 minutes? So think about that. And the third part I'll make on participants is, if they needed to have prepared something, give them advance notice and make sure they come prepared. You don't walk into a room blank. I mean, I can't imagine going to a meeting blank without having to at least understand what that meeting's going to be about, and should I have done any preparation or been ready?
That's interesting, really interesting point about preparation, right? So one of the things you learn when you're self-employed is when you're being paid to be somewhere, you better turn up prepared. And whereas when you're an employee, I'll just roll in with my coffee and my tie undone. But it does focus the mind a bit. And one of the things I've learned, and I would definitely advise people do, is when you know you've got a meeting coming up that you've got to prepare for, put some time in the calendar where you're going to prepare for it. And it's not negotiable time. It's not time that you're going to, I'll do it if I can, or I'll shift it if I don't have any calls. But use the time to prepare so that when you go to the meeting, you are ready to engage on the action part of the outcome purpose action.
Yeah. So look, there's some things around participation there, guys, but then come back to what Neil and I first started this conversation on. If you're invited to a meeting, be clear on why you're expected to be there and what you think you're going to bring to that meeting. And if you can't see the value you're going to bring, I don't see any harm in raising that topic. I would raise it outside the meeting. I'm not sure I'd sit there in the meeting as it opens and goes, I don't know why I'm here. But there's no reason why you shouldn't raise that with the person up front that says, because they might have a different reason for you being there that you don't realize, right? You might not know that.
And what's interesting, so Elon Musk has 3 rules for meetings. He says, no large meetings. If you're not adding value to the meeting, leave. And no frequent meetings. So the third one we can talk about. The first 2 I definitely agree with.